This is the Old 77 bonus content. Today, we're talking with Dave.
Hey.
Dave has a unique condition. Dave has what's known as C.V.S. It's cycling. Can you say it for me?
Cyclic vomiting.
Cyclic vomiting syndrome.
Some
right?
people say cyclic. Some people
Cyclic?
say cylic. Or yeah. I don't know.
So it's weird. I've known two people now, and this is talking with Dave. This is very rare. Like you don't have that.
Right.
I've known two people with this illness.
I've literally not met another person face to face that has CVS.
Yeah.
I'm on a support group that's got about 13,000 of us from
Now,
all over
that's
the
amazing
world.
right there.
Yeah. And I mean, it's from all over the world. I've got videos on YouTube too, and I will have people contact me. I had a guy that was
What's
from
your channel name? Do you have one?
CVS killer.
CVS killer.
Yeah.
You're,
CVS.
so you hate
space
really
killer.
long receipts?
I know, man. It's such an unfortunate
Right.
abbreviation
Right.
because we all think of CVS, the pharmacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's weird too because we were talking beforehand. Like this other person that I know, everyone thought she was making it up.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Like this isn't. She was a very anxious person.
Yeah.
You know, and no, this isn't real. She's just trying to get out of stuff. Or,
Right.
No, you know, maybe she doesn't want to do this.
Yeah.
And it's not like that at all, is it?
No. And the same thing happens when people end up in the emergency room.
So what? How did it play out for you then?
So when I was about, I want to say about 24, 25 years old, I woke up one Saturday morning. The night before, I had went over to my buddy Alan's house and played poker, which was like a thing we would do every Friday night.
Right.
Had a few drinks, but nothing crazy, you know, maybe 3 or 4 drinks. And so the next morning when I woke up, I started out with a headache. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I've got a little hangover or something, you know. But then once I puked, it got much worse. I got this horrible pain in my stomach, and it would not go away. And the first one that I had was about 2 or 3 days. Couldn't eat anything.
Like it lasted 2 or 3 days?
Yeah.
Oh my.
With this constant abdominal pain, and it's so painful that it's almost impossible to like sleep.
Yeah, and that's kind of how she was too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's torturous, man. I would not wish it on anybody.
Yeah.
It's absolutely torturous. But so that happened. My first episode happened. And then once it was over, it was over. I was fine after that. Well, then, I don't know, maybe 3 months later, it happened again. Same exact scenario. And that was when I realized, okay, there's something else going on here.
Yeah, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah. So I continued to get these episodes every few months. In between, I would feel like a completely normal person.
Really?
Yeah.
So and you didn't have any symptoms leading up to it? It was just
Nothing. No
Wow.
forewarning. It came out of nowhere.
Hey.
And so for the first, I don't know, maybe 6 months that I was dealing with it, I didn't even know what I was dealing with. So I spent a ton of time Googling on the internet, and eventually I finally found some documentation about this condition, cyclic vomiting syndrome. So I read it. Everything on there matched me. It's these episodes of vomiting. Then in between, you feel completely normal. It's very stereotypical. Like for me, when I was first getting them, they only happened on the weekends. And that's very, very common. Like people will get them certain days of the week. Like a lot of times it will revolve around their work schedule.
Well, why? Has that ever been explained to you? Why?
Because anxiety can be a trigger. And here's the weird thing is that it doesn't have to be negative anxiety. It can be, I'm excited, I'm going to go to a concert.
I'm excited for the weekend.
I missed concerts. I missed my own bachelor party because of this thing. So anyway, I got the documentation. I brought it into my doctor, who had no idea what was wrong with me either. And
Yeah, this is about the time I showed up here, and yeah,
maybe a little bit before
man,
then,
it
but
was, Dave
Yeah.
was thin.
yeah, I was really skinny, man.
Yeah.
I was really skinny. The good thing was once I found my the documentation, I brought it into my doctor. She read it and she immediately said, okay, this is exactly what's happening to you. And so her and I both kind of learned about CVS together. And it
That's
was
cool.
Yeah. Well, I always say having a doctor that doesn't know anything about CVS but is willing to learn is much better than having a doctor that thinks that they know all about CVS and is not willing to work with you.
Absolutely.
Good point.
Yeah, we had so many
Absolutely.
different meds that they would try on me, and most of them were not successful. And I was at the point, man, literally where like I wished I was dead. I really wanted to die just to end the misery. So about 3 months before my boys were born, so this was in like March of 2016, my mom showed up to my house one day with a handful of supplements and basically told me like, Dave, you're going to take these supplements. Like I had to do this.
Yeah.
And so she had heard about these supplements in one of the big support groups that I'm on, because she's in the support group too.
It's a good mom.
Absolutely, dude. If my mom,
good
if
mom.
my mom wouldn't have given up on me, like she's the only reason why I'm here today,
Yeah,
because
man.
I had given up on myself. But oh shit, was it?
Supplements, man.
Supplements. Yeah. So she brought the supplements over and she said, Dave, you're going to take these supplements. And so I took the supplements for like 5 or 6 weeks before I could finally get into my doctor, because there's one prescription med too that's part of this cocktail. So when my mom gave me all this information, I had already tried so many things. I had no hope that I was going to get better.
Right. That's what I love about Dave, man. He'll try anything.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, anything that helps him.
Yeah.
You stick a poison frog dart in his ass, and he's okay with
Absolutely, man. It's a learning experience. But yeah,
Appreciate the hell out of you for that, man.
well, thank you, brother. If it weren't for my mom, dude, I wouldn't be here. So in the meantime, I've made YouTube videos. I'm really active on all of these support groups, and I've helped a ton of people.
That's good,
out
man.
in these support groups. I get emails from people all over the world saying, hey, dude, I saw your video. I'm doing a lot better now.
That's cool.
You
That's
know?
cool, yeah.
And I never get tired of that.
Well, and it's like now we're bringing awareness to it,
Right, and
Because
I really
most people
appreciate
have
that.
never even heard of this.
Yeah, most people have never heard of it. It seems like it's becoming more common.
You know, it seems like it's out. It's always been there. Now it's like autism.
Yeah.
It's always been out there. We just
Right.
now have a name for it, and we know how to look for it.
They actually think that Charles Darwin had CVS.
Really,
Mhm.
I could see that. 'Cause
And
he
I
was
also-
prone to fits.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also have a theory that Kurt Cobain did too.
Kurt Cobain had an ulcer in his stomach,
Mm-hmm.
and he was also probably mainlining heroin every day.
He had really bad stomach issues. Well,
He was also married to the Carol Baskin of the 90s.
right, right. But
It was.
He was.
That's a good point.
when I would
Man.
have these episodes, the only thing that would stop them were like narcotics,
Really?
like opiates or like benzos,
Really?
benzodiazepines, which is like Xanax, Ativan, those types
That's
of
the
drugs.
only thing that would stop it.
That was the only thing that would stop it in its tracks once it had already started. And
would,
that's
would it come back worse?
no, that it would abort the episode. And for most of the people in my support groups, traditional nausea meds are useless. And the theory behind that is because this is a thing that actually begins neurologically, which would also explain why anti-anxiety meds
Right. I was just thinking that.
would be helpful. But the supplements and stuff that my mom gave me in our little support groups, it's known as the magic cocktail. And after about the third day, when I added the prescription med to the 2 supplements, for the first time in years, I actually started waking up in the morning feeling like a normal person.
Wow.
Most mornings when I would wake up, I literally couldn't stick a toothbrush in my mouth without gagging. I always
Really?
felt worse in the mornings, and
So did it heighten your gag reflex?
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, when I would be in the middle of episodes, my sense of smell would be really, really heightened.
To where you would gag smelling things?
Well, no, but like if I would try to drink water, like it had to be purified water. Like tap water, I could taste all of the
Really?
impurities.
So
and
like it
stuff.
heightened your senses?
Yes, it's bizarre.
That is
It's
strange.
bizarre.
It's
Yeah.
bizarre. But here's the good thing, man. I'm 4+ years now since I started that cocktail. And as you guys know, I'm in a hell of a lot better
Yeah.
shape than I was.
Yeah, man. You're in a lot better place.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. And I've been able to raise awareness of people in my support groups and help people out. And so I just want to tell you guys, thanks for allowing us to do this little
Yeah,
episode.
man. Absolutely.
I'm hoping that, some people in my support group maybe can share this with family
Yeah,
members.
absolutely. Share
Of
away.
course,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, and we just need to raise awareness, man, because one of the other thoughts that I would have when I wished I was dead is like, I would also think like, man, I wish I just had cancer, because at least
then you would have a name for it.
Yeah. And not only that, but like people know what cancer is.
I get that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with CVS, nobody really knows what it is.
Right,
So we've just got to raise awareness and not give up hope.
And we'll talk about some more symptoms and more things, and we're going to take a break right now, but we'll talk about all of that coming up next.
This is the Old 77 bonus content. Call or text the Old 77 listener line at 573-246-0779. Help ensure future episodes by becoming a sponsor today. To find out how, email the Old 77 podcast at gmail.com.
Hey guys, Scott here from the Old 77. I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you for listening to this episode. This episode is very near and dear to my friend Dave. And really, it was Dave that brought this up to me. He really pushed us to do this show, and I'm glad he did. If you like our show, please consider becoming a sponsor of it. Go to our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/theold77. That's 77 podcast. You can there find out where you can get additional bonus content. If you like this show and you actually find value in it, because really we're just a bunch of BSers who like to BS with other BSers. It's pretty much the core of our show. If you feel that you find value in that and you'd like to hear more, then please think about becoming a sponsor today. You can also call or text our listener line at area code 573-246-0779. You never know, your message might end up as a promo for the show. A couple of them already have. I won't take up any more of your time. Thanks for listening, guys. Let's get back to the second segment. Welcome back to the Old 77. Today's bonus content edition is Dave and I, and we are speaking about Dave's illness, CVS.
Not my mental illness today.
Not today, no. This is a physical well, I guess it is. It's physical and mental, though, too.
Sure, yeah, man. I mean, for a lot of us, myself included, anxiety can be one of the biggest triggers of episodes.
Is that a trigger of yours, anxiety?
Yes, it was my biggest trigger other than alcohol.
Alcohol, really?
Well, so the first time I ever had an episode, which I shared with you guys earlier, I had some drinks the night before. Not a huge amount of drinks.
And that's a trigger for you as well?
It was my first trigger, and to this day, I pretty much stay away from alcohol.
Yeah, man, being in a band, you probably had a lot of access to alcohol.
I had a lot of alcohol thrown at me, dude, for sure. It's kind of weird, man. I don't know how to explain it, but I can kind of just tell. Like, I can listen to my body and
that's cool.
Decide
you're aware of that.
Yeah, like if somebody throws a drink at me, like I can pretty much tell, like, okay, I can have a drink tonight. And I can also tell like when it's not a good idea to have a drink. And pretty much it's never really a good idea for me to have a drink.
Well, we were talking about, so when all of this happens and you're triggered and you start having an episode, we were talking about last segment, a cocktail that can kind of help bring you out of that.
Yeah.
Or does it help prevent them?
It's prevention.
Which
is even better.
Yeah.
Because I was depending on narcotics to just lessen the severity of my episodes. But it wasn't doing anything to actually prevent them.
Yeah.
So there's this thing that we, in the support group, we call it the magic cocktail, or sometimes you'll hear people call it the mito cocktail, as in mitochondrial.
Okay.
Because mitochondria...
Like mushrooms?
No, you're thinking of myco.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this is mito, like the mitochondria in your cells.
Oh, okay.
So they think that CVS is also related to some sort of mitochondrial dysfunction.
Like a cellular degenerated?
Something like that, yeah, on the cellular level. But that's not important. But if you get on the support groups, if you think that you might have cyclic vomiting, or if you know you have cyclic vomiting syndrome, if you're listening to me right now and you don't know what the magic cocktail is, or the mito cocktail, MITO cocktail, you need to get on that, because so there's a video that I made on my YouTube page, and the YouTube account is CVS Killer, CVS space Killer. There's a video on there that's called the magic cocktail cure for CVS is the name of my video. I've got over 10,000 views on that video. And I've had people contact me from all over the world
That's cool.
and tell me that the information in that video turned them around or turned their child around. If I would have had the information in that video when I first started having episodes, it would have saved me like nearly a decade of pain and suffering.
Really?
So that's the number one thing that I would encourage a listener to do if they're not already hip to the magic cocktail. Read about it, give it a try.
Well, you touched on it a little bit before, but
Yeah.
say someone has been sick for a while and they're having conditions and they don't know what's going on with them.
Right.
Talk about maybe some of your earlier experiences and how you came to like put things together. So, for instance, if I have this strange thing going on with me now, but the symptoms sound similar.
Yeah.
Like help me help myself a little
Sure.
bit.
Yeah. So the main aspect of cyclic vomiting syndrome is you have these episodes where you get nauseous, you vomit. Most of us have really bad abdominal pain. Sometimes there's also a migraine involved too. But the telltale sign of CVS is that in between these episodes, you feel like a normal person. The other telltale sign is that the episodes are often very stereotypical, like they are triggered by anxiety. Certain people have certain foods. Cheese is a common trigger for some people. Alcohol is a trigger. So you have to pay attention to, okay, what have I put in my body recently? And that way you can narrow it down.
Yeah, you have to listen to yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And here's the number one thing that I would say to anybody that thinks that they might have this. If you are on Facebook, you need to find some cyclic vomiting support groups. The biggest one that I'm in, and it's my favorite one out of all of them, is called Cyclic Vomiting Syndrome Network Support Group. I think there's about 13,000 of us in there. Some of us are patients, some of us are parents. Some of us are husbands and wives of people.
Right.
Because this thing, I mean, it doesn't just harm the person that has it, it harms the entire family.
Yeah, it gets everyone.
Because
right?
mom's too sick to go to the soccer game or
Right.
whatever the case may be. So I know when I found that support group on Facebook, it was like the sea had been parted. Because the thing about this condition, I still have never met anybody face to face.
Right, I was going to say, this is such a rare condition.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you think that you're the only person that's going through this.
Yeah.
Nobody really understands it. Well, the main thing that I learned when I found that support group is there are thousands of people,
Yeah, you're not alone.
yes, that are going through exactly what I went through.
Yeah.
So just the fact that you can talk to somebody that understands what you're going through, just that in and of itself is therapeutic.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Just to have that open communication.
Yeah, because so many of us get told that we're crazy or that this is all in our head.
I was going to say, or it's all made up. You're making it up.
Right.
You're not really sick. You just went off work.
Right.
You don't
And-
want to go to the family reunion.
Yeah. And if any of those people that said that could spend 5 minutes in my shoes when I'm in the middle of one of these episodes.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I've been a guy who said that. No, she just made that up.
Yeah. If you could experience 5 minutes worth of one of these episodes, you would never question us again. I would not wish it on my worst enemy, man.
Like I said, I've only known one other person.
Yeah.
And yeah, we thought she was making it up too.
Yeah. And here's another thing, another kind of hot topic with cyclic vomiting is cannabis. So I am a medical cannabis patient. And when my episodes were at their worst, cannabis was really the only thing other than addictive narcotics.
Like an opioid.
Yes,
Yeah.
that would bring me any relief. So, but here's the thing. There's this big argument going on right now because there's a condition called CHS, which is cannabis hyperemesis syndrome.
Yeah, I was thinking this. Yeah.
Yes.
When you said that.
The symptoms are almost identical to cyclic vomiting syndrome.
Only it's the actual cannabis that's doing it to you, right?
Right.
And it's a buildup in your system over a time.
Yeah, and it's usually people that are smoking a ton of weed
Right.
for a very long period of time.
Right.
So I know that mine is not caused by cannabis because I used cannabis as a teenager, but when I first started having episodes, I had a state job, so I was subject to urine screens.
Right,
I worked in a prison.
Yeah, you were clean.
Yeah, so I wasn't using anything, let alone cannabis. And I continued not to use cannabis for, I don't know, the first couple of years after I started having episodes.
So then how did you come to find out this then? Were you just smoking one night? Like, oh, wow, I'm feeling better. Or did somebody actually recommend this to you?
Well, I just knew that cannabis has incredible anti-nausea properties.
Yeah.
So I just basically connected the dots and said, hey, I may as well give this a try.
Right, they give cancer patients that going through chemo.
Yeah. Because nothing else was working.
Yep.
And I don't want to say that cannabis is a cure for CVS because it's not nowhere close to being a cure.
But it sounds like a decent treatment for the illness.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely, man. And it's a hell of a lot safer than a lot of the prescription drugs.
I worry about taking opioids. Like
You should worry.
I don't even like taking ibuprofen. Like NSAIDs.
Yeah.
I don't even want to take those.
Yeah.
Those worry me.
You should be worried, man. You and I have had this conversation before. I've known about a dozen people that have overdosed on opiates and died.
I've lost a few friends along the way.
Yeah. So, man, regarding the opiates, if I've got twin boys at home, they're almost 4 years old. If they get, a dental procedure, or God forbid they have some type of accident where they have to have surgery, and they try to give them opiates, that will be an absolute last resort for me.
But at some point, you have to give them something.
Yes, you do.
Like I got my wisdom teeth extracted a few years before I showed up here in Jeff City.
Yeah.
And they gave me Vicodin and like a really high-powered ibuprofen.
Uh-huh.
And the high-powered ibuprofen was great.
Uh-huh.
Okay, it took all the pain away, but it was the symptoms that it left that I couldn't stand. Like, okay, I was probably on this ibuprofen for a good week because my mouth hurt. I had to go in, like a couple of them, they had to do extractions, so they really had to get in there. Afterwards, I was constipated for a month because
opiates.
of the ibuprofen.
Well, was there opiates in the ibuprofen? Was it like a mixture of ibuprofen?
It was ibuprofen and something else.
Yeah.
And then there was the Vicodin. And it was the combination back and forth. I mean, it kept me great.
Yeah.
But afterwards, like, it took me a good while to get back to normal.
Yeah.
And I hated the feeling the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't hurt, but I hate the way I feel.
Yeah. See, that's not me, man.
I don't like them at all.
I will never forget the first time I took an opiate. I was probably 12 years old after a dental procedure.
Yeah.
And
mine was too.
And man, let me tell you, man, that stuff made me feel like I was floating on cloud 9.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I understand the appeal. Back in the day working in a factory, you'd take something and you'd feel like you were 12 again.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
And it's very anti-anxiety, those types of medications.
Yeah, you don't care.
They'll kill your physical pain to a degree, but really what they do really well is kill your emotional pain.
Yeah.
They're very, anti-anxiety.
And that's right up there with how you start abusing them.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel great.
I mean, the most people that end up dead from these things, most of them are people that got opiates the legal way.
Right, they were prescribed.
And then maybe they get cut off because now all these doctors are cutting people off now.
Oh, yeah.
People that really do need them.
Dude, so my mom my mom's in a nursing home right now. She's kind of really slipping due to a stroke. It really messed with her memory and she doesn't remember much, but for 15 years, my mom had a prescription for Vicodin.
Uh-huh.
And it doubled every month, or every 2 months or so often because she just had such a tolerance.
Yeah.
For 10 years, my mom's been on a prescription for Vicodin.
Mm-hmm.
She started losing her mind a little bit and they cut her back.
Yeah.
And it was just like she didn't even know about it, and thank God for the mind problem there.
Yeah.
So she didn't know about it. But I mean, legitimately, she went through withdrawals.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, just anything that long you're on.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, so get on a support group.
Yeah.
If you think that you have this.
And if you think you have it, again, did you give us some symptoms and some things that you can pinpoint?
Yeah. So
is there a website too, like where you found?
There is a group called the Cyclic Vomiting Syndrome Association, the CVSA.
CVSA.
Yeah, I think it's like cvsa.org maybe.
There you go.
But if you just Google it, you'll find them. And they've got their own website and it's got some great information and they've got some message boards and stuff, but their website is not anywhere near as active as the Facebook support group. So I would go to the CVSA page just to gain some information and an understanding of what CVS is. But as far as talking to other people, I have not found anything better than that particular support group that I found on Facebook. It's just, but I wanted to go back to the cannabis thing again.
Yeah.
So in my case, I had CVS for 4 years. No, I had CVS for 2 years before I actually treated it with cannabis. Hadn't touched cannabis for at least a couple years before my episodes ever began. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that mine was not caused by cannabis. But sadly, what happens to most people that end up in the emergency room with this, if they find cannabis in your system, they will automatically tell you that you have CHS and that it's the cannabis that's causing.
And they write you off?
Yeah. And they will just straight up refuse to treat you. I literally talk to people in these support groups every single day that this happens to.
That's terrible.
Dude, it breaks my heart. And so just for kind of shits and giggles, I joined a CHS support group on Facebook, and it's called CHS versus CVS, Spotting the Difference. So I mentioned earlier, I've got about 13,000 people in my big CVS support group. So I went into the CHS support group just to see what was going on.
Yeah.
Very, very few people posting anything. And I'm not saying that CHS isn't a real thing, but what I am saying is that for people that have cyclic vomiting syndrome, cannabis is your friend. It's not an enemy in almost all of the cases. And the sad thing is that even when we do what we have to do to rule cannabis out, so doctors will make you quit using it for at least 3 months. So there's enough time for it to get completely out of your system. Yeah. But even for those of us that do take those necessary steps, we still get treated like shit by doctors, especially in emergency rooms. So here's the other piece of advice I would give. Find a primary doctor who is willing to work with you and who is willing to write you scripts for the meds that you need to take to abort your episodes with. Because for real, the emergency room is the absolute last environment that somebody that's going through this should have. Because any noise or outside stimulation, it literally will bring waves of pain into my abdomen when I'm having an episode. It sounds bizarre.
Yeah, that is weird.
But literally like just my phone vibrating or somebody walking into the room just to check on me or something. That triggers this wave of anxiety and then this wave of pain that goes into your abdomen. Ask anybody that has CVS, they will tell you that the puking is not the worst part. It's the abdominal pain. That's really the worst part.
Yeah, man, I couldn't even begin to imagine.
So do what you need to do as far as researching cannabis, but I talk to people every day in these support groups, and I'm convinced that for almost all of them, cannabis is a helper.
Yeah.
Not the opposite. But that being said, if you have these symptoms, and if you have been using cannabis the whole time since your symptoms have started, then yeah, you need to stop taking cannabis and you need to rule it out.
Yeah.
Because that gives the rest of us that do rule it out, that really do have CVS, kind of a bad name.
Yeah.
Like we get labeled.
You're going to get that though no matter what.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it's just a shame, man. We live in an age where the opiate crisis is so bad that doctors are afraid to prescribe opiates now.
Well, like with my mom, they just took it away.
Yeah. Yeah, and
you can't do that to someone.
Man.
You can't 10 years on a prescription and you take it out, you know.
And you know
Come on.
Yeah, it's insane. The withdrawals from opiates are bad, but the benzodiazepines, stuff like Xanax, I've heard that the withdrawal from that can literally kill you.
Like you hallucinate and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, people generally, the withdrawals from opiates don't generally kill people, but benzos, you can die from that. And so, yeah, man, I don't understand why these are doctors. They should know, like, don't just cut somebody off. If you want them to stop taking them, wean them off of it at least.
I mean, that's a thought for another show, I think.
Absolutely,
but,
man.
I mean, doctors aren't all about helping you all the time. There are some. Yeah. But it's just like what we said, you know, there's some good ones and some bad ones, and the bad ones ruin the good ones.
Yeah. And I'm so lucky to have a great doctor.
What do you call a doctor that graduated last in their class? You call them a doctor.
Right.
Right? Because they're out there writing scripts because we can't all be tops in the class.
Dude, my experience in medical facilities, the nurses are really the ones that know their shit. God.
Have you seen all that equipment the nurses have to do? Like they got to hook up all the IVs and the pumps and all that crap.
Yeah.
And I've seen a doctor come in and talk. Like he can't even articulate himself right.
The thing about
let alone
doctors,
hook all that crap up.
Yeah. The thing about doctors is they're always so in demand. So even if you do get in to see a doctor,
he ain't got time.
You're lucky if you get 10 minutes with him.
Yeah, he ain't got time.
I'm very lucky to have a great doctor. And if you have CVS or if you think you might have CVS, if it's possible for you, make sure that you find a doctor that takes you seriously.
Who's willing to listen.
Who is willing to listen and learn.
If you come in and you say your issues and he's like, nope, or she's like, nope, it's this.
Yeah.
Get a different doctor.
Get a different doctor. And unfortunately, that's generally the reaction from almost all ER doctors. So find a primary physician that's willing to work with you.
Well, ER doctors are only there to treat you right now.
Right. And in their defense, they do see a lot of people that are in there seeking drugs. Okay. So I understand why they're paranoid. I get it, you know.
Yeah, I get that too.
I get it. But that being said, for somebody like me that's had this condition for 10 plus years, I've got all the documentation, I've got the diagnosis from the special, like I've got all of that.
You've lived with it for a decade now though. I'm fairly certain you have it in check.
I do.
Is there with people like you who have it in check, could like one day it just spiral out of control again?
Yeah, dude. That's my biggest fear.
It just does it on its own, right?
So
no matter how much you take to prevent or man.
So the medication that I'm on, so I'll tell you guys the ingredients of the magic cocktail. So it's 2 over-the-counter supplements. One is L-carnitine.
I've heard of that.
Most of us take 2,000 milligrams of that a day. And then the other one is another one you've probably heard of, CoQ10.
Yep.
So I take 800 milligrams a day of CoQ10.
That explains your hair. It's so nice. So
Thank
wavy.
you. Thank you.
So full and sheen. Maybe it's Maybelline.
It could be. Okay.
No, that explains your hair because that stuff makes your hair grow.
I do have great hair.
Yeah, you have a solid set of hair. I mean, you're also incredibly modest about your hair too.
Yeah.
God, I do have some great hair.
I do have great hair, man.
Damn, my hair's gorgeous.
Okay, so before I forget, the third ingredient
please.
on the magic cocktail is a prescription drug, and it's called amitriptyline. I think amitriptyline originally was a psychiatric drug.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds something brain related.
Yep, that's originally what it was made for, and we really have no idea why it works for people with CVS.
Oh, it's one of those.
Yeah, but it's an off-label use. Yeah,
kind of like all depression medications. We don't know what they do. We just kind of toss it.
Right. It's like the lock that fits the key.
Yep.
You know what I mean, or the key that fits the lock. So by about the 3rd day after I started the amitriptyline, that was when I just made a huge turnaround. Like I went from feeling like shit every day to waking up and feeling like a normal person again. Wow. Which was incredible. But you were asking, like, can it come back?
Yeah. 3 days that turned you around?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
That's some fast acting stuff.
It was incredible. Now, if I have an episode tomorrow, I would still need to use the opiates probably to abort the episode with.
Yeah.
But the great thing about the magic cocktail and the amitriptyline is that it's prevented my episodes from even happening for the most part. So I haven't even had to touch any of that.
When's the last time you've had an episode?
Well, I had
one here a while back.
I had a little scare a couple weeks ago, but I was able to get my abort meds, and I was good within a day. And in the past, these things would drag on for 6, 7, 8 days.
Yeah,
just awful.
Yeah.
So even though I have had some episodes kind of start to creep back in, it's much more manageable than it was before. Like, I can afford to miss a day of work here or there, but this deal where it goes on for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days, you can't do that.
Like 10 days at a clip.
I went through so many jobs. You guys were the only ones that stuck with me.
Yeah, I ran into you several places.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were at different jobs doing different things.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Damn, I work with that guy.
Yeah.
He's everywhere.
And that's really common. A lot of people that are living with this in a bad way, we can't keep jobs. A lot of us are on disability. A lot of us have hard time getting disability.
Disability's hard in general to get.
Most people in my support groups that have had success with disability had to hire a lawyer to get it to work. But no doubt in my mind that when I was at my worst 4, 5, 6 years ago, I absolutely should have been on disability.
Yeah, man, you were gone a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a serious deal, man. It is no joke. But for anybody,
I'm glad you have it back in check, man. I'm glad you're in a good spot right now.
Me too, man. Me too.
And that gives everyone else hope. Hopefully,
yes.
If you're listening to this and you are sick, you can in fact get to a good spot one day.
Yeah, because dude, I told you I had already given up hope on myself.
This guy was in rough shape when I met him.
Yeah. I had already given up on myself. It was having a family that was a good support system to me that got me here. So, dude, I'm glad, and all of the pain and suffering that I dealt with, today I feel like it was all worth it because I'm happy now.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you wouldn't be the same without it.
Right. Absolutely, man. It builds character.
Yeah.
Some of the nicest, most genuine people that you will ever meet are people that have suffered a lot.
Yeah.
Or people that have dealt with oppression. I'm not claiming to have dealt with the oppression.
No, not either.
But you know, when
people who have gone through some shit typically know how shitty it can be, and they're nice to you.
And they have empathy.
Right. They have empathy.
Which is something that we are sorely lacking these days.
We need that today.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So, I mean, bottom line, if you're listening to this, there is help out there. There's support groups. My YouTube page is called CVS Killer. If you want to send me a message, I check my YouTube messages all the time. I'll get back to you. I'm always happy to help. And I'm proud to say that through stuff like this and through the videos and stuff that I've made, I've been able to help turn around a lot of people, which makes me feel really, really good.
That's good, man. I'm glad you're out there helping people.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me,
Right on, man. This has been the Old 77 bonus content episode. Thanks for being on the show, Dave.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks for listening to the Old 77 bonus content. Call or text the Old 77 listener line at 573-246-0779. Help ensure future episodes by becoming a sponsor today. To find out how, email the Old 77 podcast at gmail.com.